In this video, we're going to tell you some fun, little-known facts about Marvel's very own lethal protector. So without further ado, here are 10 things you probably didn't know about Venom. Venom's dietary alternative. When you think of Marvel's Venom, you can easily imagine the symbiote anti-hero literally gobbling up criminals as part of his diet. That's because Venom's physiology requires him to subsist on certain chemicals that can only be found inside human brains. But what you probably didn't know is that the lethal protector has a more, well, let's just say less murdery diet option to gain sustenance. That is, guys, chocolate. As you'd find out throughout the course of Venom's history, the black interstellar goo occasionally gorges himself with this stuff. This is all due to the fact that the chocolate contains a chemical called phenethylamine, a compound that can be found in both the human brain and the sweet treat. Of course, seeing the badass chomp down on tons of chocolate every time he gets hungry would be way less interesting than seeing him eat Marvel's criminals. But hey, at least we know we can always just give Venom a Snickers bar whenever he gets cranky. Venom can latch on to anything. For the most part, Venom's hosts tend to be organic beings, with the majority of them being humans like Peter Parker, Eddie Brock, or Flash Thompson. However, you might just be surprised to find out that the symbiote has the ability to take control of inorganic matter as well. This became apparent during his stint with Flash Thompson as Agent Venom, when the black symbiote fused with a car to form a super cool alien muscle car complete with Venom's trademark tongue. Granted, the so-called Venommobile hasn't been a staple in the character's ongoing series, but you know what, guys? This particular detail opens up a bunch of possibilities about the character that we hope Marvel explores further. We mean, come on, we're sure we're not alone when we say it would be fantastic if, say, Venom merged with a tank or maybe the Quinjet. So here's hoping we get to see more Venom fusing with inanimate objects somewhere down the line. Venom can potentially reproduce asexually. By now, we all know that Venom has the ability to help grow its host's limbs and even keep them alive as long as they're bonded. But a curious little factoid about the symbiote comes from the writer Daniel Way's storyline that saw Venom lose his tongue after a bout with the Fantastic Four. This same tongue was then found by a random, enterprising citizen lying around the rubble in the aftermath of the battle, who then decided to sell it online to make some cash. However, they immediately found out that there are shady parties extremely interested in acquiring some of the symbiote's DNA. A company named the Eric Corporation, led by a scientist named Bob, stole the tongue from the guy who found it and started cultivating it in his lab. Eventually, the severed symbiote tongue grew into an entirely new Venom, but this one is angrier and wilder than the original. In the end, OG Venom faced off with his tongue clone in an epic symbiote v symbiote battle that saw the original triumph and reabsorb his missing body part. But the question is this only applicable to Venom's tongue, or will any amount or part of his DNA have this capability given the right conditions? Venom's first human host. Eddie Brock might be the trademark Venom host if we're looking at the grand scheme of things, but historically speaking, he's not the first Marvel character to don the black goo from space. It was none other than our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, who first got all juiced up from the symbiote. But we eventually find out within the pages of Deadpool's Secret Wars that the Merc with the mouth actually beat good old Peter to the punch. In one of Marvel's many retcons, Deadpool stumbled upon the symbiote by pure chance, and it bonded with him. Deadpool enjoyed the fact that his new suit gave him new powers, particularly the ability to change his wardrobe at will. However, the fast-talking mercenary immediately noticed that he was wearing an actual living thing, and to Wade Wilson's credit, he didn't want the symbiote to be infected with his fourth wall breaking insanity. Deadpool thought it would be ultimately cruel to mess up the symbiote because of this, so he decided to leave it where he found it. After that, the web slinger played host to the symbiote, and as they say, the rest was history. Venom has a thing for Peter Parker. You might not have known this, but Venom actually loves Peter Parker, and we're not just talking about some weird alien boyhood crush here. We're saying that the Venom symbiote treats the wall crawler as perhaps the greatest host it has ever bonded with. This all stems from the fact that the Venom symbiote sensed innate morality and nobility within Pete. In fact, we even discovered that the black goo straight up refuses to bond with Peter Parker after it realized how it tarnished the superhero's good name whenever it amplified Spider-Man's inner rage. Still, Venom holds Spider-Man close to its heart, which explains why it carries the spider symbol on its chest when it bonds with other hosts like Eddie Brock. On the bright side, we also find out that Spider-Man's most recent coupling with the Venom symbiote has so far proven to be copacetic, as Peter doesn't seem to be getting super aggro when the Venom symbiote accidentally bonded with him again during the events of the Venom War. Who knows, maybe there's gonna be a happy ending for these star-crossed partners after all. Can you imagine if Peter possessed all the powers of the Venom symbiote without having to deal with its side effects? Venom has been around for a long time. As far as Venom's symbiote true origin goes, it might surprise you to discover that it's been around for a millennia within the Marvel Universe. Originally, Venom, like all the other symbiotes, was created by the dark god Null as part of an evil army against existence itself. In the beginning, the Venom symbiote was one of Null's most loyal subjects, codex, but then came a time when it started rebelling against its maker. Null then cast out Venom from his symbiote hive mind. Venom then started aimlessly drifting through the vastness of space. Eventually, the alien race called the Kree managed to retrieve the Venom symbiote, and this began a whole new chapter for the Black Goo and its long list of hosts throughout its absurdly long life. Venom was originally a hero. Now, you can argue that Spider-Man is the Venom symbiote's historical first host, but if we're talking about Marvel canon, you're going to find out that the Lethal Protector had flings with other hosts thousands of years before it arrived on Earth. And the most surprising part is that Venom started off as a legitimate, honest-to-goodness hero. After the Kree captured it, the symbiote bonded with a Kree warrior who went by the name of Telkar. Together with him, Venom went on to become one of the Kree's empire's most trusted spies. But the story ends on a bittersweet note, as Telkar was forced to separate with the Venom symbiote in order to rescue a ship full of Kree passengers. To make sure that their enemies, the shape-shifting aliens known as the Skrull, couldn't extract sensitive information from Venom, Telkar wiped its mind and sent it away. To its credit, the Venom symbiote then attempted to locate Telkar and bond with him again after their separation, but its efforts failed and it ultimately found itself on Earth thousands of years later. Venom's brutal needs. It's a given fact that the Venom symbiote needs to feed on human brains to keep itself in tip-top condition, but it also requires a certain degree of mental toughness from its host to avoid it from overindulging itself. Perhaps one of its more brutal episodes in Venom's history that shows the symbiote without any impulse control was the time that it bonded with Mac Gargan, aka the Scorpion. At first, it was all business as usual. Gargan was part of the government Wetworks team, Thunderbolts at the time, so taking out a few of their targets by having him feed it to the Venom symbiote was all part of the day's job. But then Venom got greedy as it started to force Gargan to constantly eat other people regardless of who it was. The situation worsened from that point on as Venom managed to gorge itself with Steel Spider's arm during one of the Thunderbolts missions. In fact, the Venom symbiote got so uncontrollable at this point that it even started to terrify Gargan, a dude who normally doesn't flinch when doing evil, shady stuff in the Marvel universe. In the end, however, the Venom symbiote was sort of cured of its so-called affliction when it bonded with Flash Thompson and became the super spy known as Agent Venom. Venom, Space Police. On a much lighter note compared to the earlier chapters of Venom's history, there was a time when the Venom symbiote didn't just become a superhero, but a superhero in space. This all happened within the pages of Venom's Space Knight, in which we saw the Black Goo transform into one of Marvel Universe's greatest cosmic protectors. In fact, this whole transition from good old-fashioned Lethal Protector to interstellar Peacekeeper granted Venom with a couple more interesting powers it didn't have before. First, Venom gained the ability to have this form of cosmic sense that allowed it to hear the voice of the universe and lead it to anyone in need across light years. Plus, the Venom symbiote also acquired the power to take on a humanoid form during this time, even without the need for a host to bond with. Venom's adventures in space stands as one of the most unexpected ideas to come out of Marvel, and though the status quo changed after that and Venom eventually went back to Earth, there's no denying that a Green Lantern-like version of the character was a fun way to reinvigorate the character. Venom's golden child. Now, Venom has had a lot, and we mean a lot of children over the course of his history. Chief among them is, of course, the supervillain Carnage. Aside from him, let's just say that nearly all the Venom's so-called kids turn out to be a bunch of bad apples. Whether it's Riot or Lasher, Venom's offspring almost always tend to lean towards the dark side. But then there's Dylan Brock. Technically speaking, Dylan is Eddie Brock's son, but the circumstances of the kid's birth definitely shows that Venom can rightfully claim paternity over the boy. You see, Dylan was the result of the Venom symbiote temporarily fusing with Eddie's girlfriend Anne and leaving a remnant of itself called the Codex inside her. Little did Anne know that there was a bun baking in her oven at the time, courtesy of Eddie. When the Codex fused with the fetus inside Anne, it ultimately turned out to be Dylan Brock. Given that he's at least a third symbiote, Dylan possesses some pretty interesting abilities. For one, he has the ability to force his will upon other symbiotes and control them. Then there's also the fact that Dylan is pretty much the next evolutionary step for the symbiote species, as he has the ability to make any symbiote he bonds with more powerful. Best of all, he's not weak to fire or loud sounds. Oh, and he basically has two daddies, which makes for an interesting Sunday dinners at the Brock household. Let's just hope that there's some chocolate.